All right, so I haven't done this in a while. We're gonna do a money video. I kind of want to start off with money for like the idea of a child. Now, when I was a child, I heard this a lot. That was, oh, kids don't know the value of money these days. The parents should teach the kids the value of money. And one of the reasons for that is that their elementary school teachers don't teach them about money. Kids don't get taught about money, the value of money and that kind of thing. They don't get taught by the teachers. That's something the parents are supposed to teach the child. Well, the reason is that that's something that's kind of, for a child, it should be taught by his family or his family specific. For the teachers will teach them about money, like mathematics and how to count and what the equivalents are and things like that. They'll teach them the technicalities of money, but it's the parents that teach them what the value is, how you value it, and what it means to you. Granted, you know what, man, here's the thing. And I'm going to tell you something that's kind of cool. There are children that are raised by their nannies. You know what I mean? There are children who are raised by their nannies, and if you want to disagree with me, let's just use a fictional example. Let's use Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Remember, Jeffrey was a butler. All right? They didn't have a nanny, right? Jeffrey was a butler, right? Jeffrey was very proper. He was an actual butler, by the way. He was a trained, I don't know if he's trained, but he was an actual butler. He was very proper. He spoke in a British accent. He took care of everything in the house for everybody. And he got paid decently too. Maybe he didn't get the best salary in the world. Granted that he's supposed to be working for a top lawyer, a judge, in a Bel Air mansion and whatnot. But do you remember when Little Nicky was born? That last character that they had. Do you remember that? Do you remember how involved Jeffrey was in Little Nicky's life? Do you remember that? First of all, let me explain this. So Will was not really involved in Little Nicky's life. If you remember those episodes, he was always upsetting Little Nicky. He beat up the mascot that Nicky and all the little kids liked. In front of them. He got into a fight with him backstage. Ended up whooping his ass in front of all the little kids. They didn't like that at all. Nicky was very upset. Okay, Will didn't have much of a relationship with Nicky. Other than the fact that he could make Nicky laugh with jokes, he had no real relationship with Nicky. Carlton had a relationship with Nicky on a certain level because Carlton hadn't quite grown up. Carlton didn't have a girlfriend. Carlton didn't go to parties. Carlton didn't know anything outside of school and his dad. That's all Carlton knew was Uncle Phil and Will every now and then would run shenanigans on Carlton. Almost like a prank hangout. You know what I mean? He wasn't really hanging out with them. He was just pranking Carlton. So Carlton was the only one who could relate to Nicky on that mental level. Because Carlton's mental level, in the world, was just like a child. Carlton was supposed to be bright in school. Other than that, he had nothing going for him. You know what I mean? He got a job. Will got a job from, the bottom. He was, bussing and stuff. And then he kind of worked his way up. Carlton just went straight in and became manager. Okay? Do you remember that? So Carlton could relate to Little Nicky on his level. If you know all the time, when Will beat up the mascot, Carlton was crying too. Carlton was just as upset as Nicky when Will beat up that mascot. Carlton was playing with Nicky and talking to Little Nicky, on his level. Uncle Phil liked Nicky, but he wasn't really in his life other than every now and then he'd take Little Nicky to meet his, high profile friends. And then Little Nicky would get to hang out and meet these guys, which is very positive for a young child. But other than that, he didn't really have much of a... I never saw the mother really... I never saw the mother and the kid ever interacting, other than they might sit at the table to eat or she's, you know what I mean? They're sitting at the same table. Other than that, I never saw the mother really interact with them. I never saw Hillary interact with them. I never saw, what's her name? The little, Ashley. I never saw Ashley interact with them either. Not notably, at least. There wasn't any notable interaction. But my point is that the odd thing is that Jeffrey actually taught little Nicky a lot. And I don't think that was the case for Will, Carlton, or Hillary, or Ashley. Ashley, a little bit. Ashley had a little, but not really. No, I don't know. Ashley didn't have any. None of the kids had that relationship with Jeffrey. It was just little Nicky. That happens, in families where people have butlers. Like the butler ends up teaching the child about money, the value of money. This is money, this is valuable. The butler's the one talking to the child. You know what I mean? So the butler ends up having a relationship with it. Now, that doesn't mean butlers are perfect. I know that butlers, there are children that butlers will not get along with. But in little Nicky's case, there was a genuine connection. Okay? And that happens to some kids. They grow up in families where they have a butler. Father's always at work, or uncle's always at work. Mother's busy with their own life. The other kids are doing their own thing. Fortunately, like, little Nicky got Carlton. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like, Carlton didn't even have any friends, okay? Like, he had these, these upper class friends that he went to school with and stuff. And they went to hang out based on school activities and things like that. Or they call him once in a while, but he didn't have any actual friends the way Will did. Will had Jazz, who had been his friend the entire time. He always had different friends that he was hooking up with, girls and guys. He was going to parties. He even tried to take Carlton to parties. Carlton ended up embarrassing him every time. You know what I mean? So, really, I mean, that's what I was trying to get at with the money and the kids and everything. Like, kids learn differently. But the person who taught him the value of the money, I'm not going to go into the specific story of when Jeffrey actually literally taught him all money while he was such a small child, but Jeffrey taught him that stuff. Now, obviously, little Nicky was very young and Jeffrey was very old. Jeffrey had been working with the family like when Carlton and Hillary were born, and they were much older. They were like 30 years older than Nicky. Nicky was just a baby, and I'm sure that, had the show gone on, Jeffrey would have probably left or died, because Jeffrey was very old. His beard was starting to get white, his hair was starting to get white. Jeffrey definitely would have been dead, But that happens, man. You might wonder to say, why does this kid have some kind of understanding of a cleaner or this guy or that guy? And it's because that's how some kids, they grew up. And the butler ended up kind of, giving them some kind of lesson. You know what I mean? Maybe not directly, but I mean, it happens, man. I also think that Jeffrey didn't really like Will at all, or some of the other kids. And that was probably the difference that he wanted to show that to him. And so that's what it is. Do I have anything else to say? I was thinking about other stuff, but I mean, look, man, if people know who you are, they know who you are, and that makes things easier. You know what I mean? You don't have to go announcing everything to the public and fuck everything. You know what I mean? Anyways, I'm done. That's it.